grab the controls that we've currently animated. I think I have a filter on. Yeah, show all keys. Animate back up and back down again, and then from here I'm just going to extend my timeline some using the Alt Control mouse button combinations to get what I want. And then I'm going to go in and animate the hand. So let's just set frame 90. Let's just set the hand. Let's just say key all. So it comes down and stops. And then we can go about setting some poses. Let's just work strictly on the index finger at this point. Let's try and get its flexing looking nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to curve the finger up into a sort of a fist position. Again, we've got fairly simple controls on these fingers, where we only have one slider for the last two bones. In complicated rigs, I make a slider for essentially every way it's going to be used. So now that one curves up, let's actually just do a key all on all of them. Reset it, and let's also bend it up backwards so we can see what happens backwards a bit. So the character was actually pointing or pushing his finger on something. We can see that there's problems around the finger area as well. So now you can see that when we actually try and paint weights on this, we're not going to actually be painting weights on everything else around it. This is because the paint brush won't allow me to paint over here. There's nothing there to paint on. The polygons are gone. You do have to be a bit careful though. If you've noticed, it's actually allowing me to paint over onto the ones next to it. And it looks like actually the exclude allows me to actually paint on them, which is something I wasn't actually aware of until about now. Doesn't actually completely exclude them. How about that? So the problem with this is that we can't actually just go crazy with our paintbrush, even with the excludes on there. We have to be pretty careful that we don't paint over into an area that's not visible. The vertices still exist actually, which is kind of a bit of a problem. You can still paint over onto them, so you do have to be a bit careful, but it's a lot easier to see what you're doing. Try and fix some of the obvious areas, like here where the bone in the finger doesn't completely affect underneath. So I'm going to shore that up. And it looks like I may have to go and kill the weighting that I'm accidentally painting into that next finger. Trying to get the knuckles nice and soft and deforming nicely between the joints is a key as well. You can get crashing fingers really quickly by not paying attention. Again, if you're never getting close to the fingers, it's not going to matter much, but if you don't know, or you are simply doing it, then you've got to work a lot on the fingers to get the weights to look correct. The end of the finger should completely move with the end bone, so I can go around and you could actually set the weights quite high and paint onto it, so you make sure you get every part of it. Looks to me like there's far too much weight with the finger the main hand bone, so I'm actually going to have to paint some weight in. On this knuckle here. Into the hand bone so that it doesn't collapse the way it was collapsing before when we actually bend the finger back. So here what we have is a little bit better solution going on now. See, it's animating a little bit better, bending and flexing a bit better. I might want to concern myself with the overlap between the thumb and here, because there's a big stretchy piece of skin in here. And again, you know, we could do much more to it to get it to look perfect with all kinds of rigging systems, but I'm not sure that's going to be necessary in this character and how we're doing it. So I'm just going to try and paint in a bit of weight and just see if I can get a nice soft area between those two. So it looks a little bit more natural, like the skin working in there. Same with the thumb then. Go ahead and actually weight that and get that to look the way it's supposed to. Another way to make sure you don't weight something by mistake, or not by mistake, but actually take the weights off, is to go in and select those vertices and use the ABS effect and just type in 0. Typing in 0, though, you got to be a little bit careful. What it's actually doing is it's removing the weight of those vertices and putting that weight back evenly into any bone that currently affects them. So if there were multiple bones that affected those vertices, it's going to take that weight and actually add it to several bones if several bones are also affecting it. Another way of doing it is to actually pick the vertices and weight them back to be 100% back to that one bone. May also not be what you want, because you might want multiple bones affecting it, and you've just completely removed that. So it's always a bit of give and take to get your skinning quite right. Once we're done with it, and you've actually played around and got this all right, you do one of two things. You can just delete the edit mesh modifier or just turn it off, and then you can immediately see what the rest of the character looks like. This means at any point in time you can actually just flick on and off that edit mesh, and you can actually see a reduced character essentially. Can help a lot.